Today is the big day to think of how far flung we have come and how far afar we have to go. Along with the multifarious struggles and triumphs, there is much more to thrive and much more to show. Let's rejoice the majestic journey this establishment had up to now. Shantigiri has all laid its foundation in the year 1988, founded by the CMI fathers of Tamil province, Muatupura, to awaken the generation to the future. Shantigiri incorporates holistic and integral development of the individual rooted in faith, in God, justice, knowledge, and human values. Shantigiri is focused in its vision towards academic excellence and to prepare the students to face the challenges in a globalized society. Let's raise a toast to make Shantigiri's perspectives and goals even better, and let us take this as a vow. A very good afternoon all, and a cordial welcome to the international webinar conducted by the Department of Commerce in association with the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Shantigiri College of Computer Sciences, Varathala. To enlighten our day and the program, we ought to seek the blessings of the Almighty. Let me welcome Ms. Sani Susan Kuriakos, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, for leading the prayer song.
The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me down to lie. In pastures green he leadeth me. The quiet waters by. My soul he doth restore again, and me to walk doth me within the paths of righteousness, in for his own name's sake. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me, and in God's house forevermore my dwelling place shall be.
Now, to welcome the gathering, I invite Mr. Shane Shaji, the Program Coordinator and Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce.
Thank you so much, Sandra ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all present here. Our honored Principal, Father Paul Parakattil CMI, respected Father Dr. Bobby Anthony CMI, the honored Principal of Shantigiri Institute of Management, well-acclaimed Chief Guests and Guests of Honor, respected Joshi Sir, the HOD, Department of Commerce, and the IQAC Coordinator of Shantigiri College, all treasured invitees, revered teachers, and of course, our startling participants. It's a glorious moment to extend my warm wishes on behalf of the Commerce Department and the IQAC of our college. I want to convey my heartfelt gratitude to our management for all the support and advices imparted from the time this webinar was cognitively conceived. It's my honor and privilege to be part of this noble gathering when the Department of Commerce is conducting a live international webinar in association with the Internal Quality Assurance Cell. Shantigiri College, with its unique perspectives and insight, has always imparted its students the orientation to become globally competent and socially committed citizens. On this note, I feel rather delighted and honored to welcome Father Paul Parakattil CMI, the Principal of Shantigiri College, to our webinar. Welcome, Father. Next, I would like to extend a cordial welcome to Father Dr. Bobby Anthony CMI, the respected Principal of Shantigiri Institute of Management, to this regal gathering. Welcome, Father. We are really fortunate to have Mrs. Muthulakshmi R. here with us today. She would be enlightening us with her expertise and insight on the topic behavioral finance. It is comparatively a new trend. Behavioral finance is the study of influence of psychology on the behavior of investors or financial analysts. It also includes the subsequent effects on the markets. It focuses on the fact that investors are not always rational, that they have limits too to their self-control and are influenced by their own biases. Ma'am, I extend you a warm welcome to this gathering on behalf of the institution and all of those who have gathered here. Professor Gaudam Rajkova. Yes, ma'am. Professor Gaudam Rajkova, who has been awarded the most prestigious fellowship of Higher Education Academy from UK, is an academician, educator, and a visionary. He would be joining us shortly. Professor Rajkova's research focuses on internationalization in higher education with a particular interest in models of collaboration in cross-border higher education, global student mobility, and student expectations and experience. He regularly presents his research at national and international conferences. He will be delivering an inaugural address and will be illuminating our perceptions with his informative and highly relevant session on management skills in a post-COVID-19 world. Sir, we are all the more happy and honored to have you with us today. Let me extend you a cordial welcome to this international webinar on behalf of the institution and all those who have gathered here. Next, I would like to welcome Father Dino Kallikat, CMI, the respected bursar of our college, and Father Anish Chirdanil, CMI, the Honorable Administrator of Shantigiri College, to this meeting. This session was effectively planned and made into a reality by the Department of Commerce and its entire crew in association with the Internal Quality Assurance Cell. I would like to extend a pleasant welcome to Joshi sir, the HOD of the Department of Commerce and the IQAC coordinator, and all my colleagues from the department. Last but not least, let me extend a cordial welcome to all the HODs from different departments, all the faculties, research scholars, participants who joined the webinar, and all the students from the Department of Commerce. Thank you so much and have a great session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to welcome Father Paul Parikatil, CMI, our honored principal, Shantigiri College of Computer Science, to deliver the felicitation.
Honorable guests of today, Professor Gaudam Rajkova, Mrs. Muthulashmi, dear teachers, and my dear students. Sincere greetings to all of you from Shantigiri College. Hope you all are keeping safe and secure at home and in the college if you are here now. A short narration. A man called Siddhartha decided to go to a distant place for prayer and meditation. After a few years, he came back to his homeland and he wanted to do some business. He went to the biggest businessman in the city and he expressed his wish to do business with him. The businessman asked Siddhartha, "What can you invest?" Siddhartha replied, "I can think, I can fast, and I can wait." The businessman understood the meaning of his words and he said to him, "You can join today." I'm sure you haven't understood the meaning of the words of Siddhartha. I will explain. I can think. That means only a person who thinks can create innovative ideas and best business strategies. I can fast. That means I'm ready to take any pain and I will do hard work. And I can wait. That means I'm a mature person. I'm patient and composed. Dear students, in future, you should be the best businessmen who can think fast and wait. Like Siddhartha, you too should master those skills and you should boldly say, I can think, I can fast, and I can. Today, we are participating in an international webinar on two themes, but I would say, focused on one main theme, skills. It is 1 year almost that we are under the pain and anxiety of COVID-19. About 25 lakhs lost their lives in the world. More than 1.5 lakhs died in India. We have still a worse situation in Kerala. The people and countries who always challenge everyone and everything now bow down their heads and stand helplessly. This is a terrible crisis that we are facing, and we are bound to overcome it. But how? Professor Gaudam will give you the answer. Gather the necessary skills and overcome the aftermath of COVID-19. Most of you are undergraduate and graduate commerce students. Today, covering the syllabus and passing in the written examination is only secondary. The first focus of your college education is, as you read in the mission statement of Shantigiri College, holistic and integral development of the individual. You should meticulously master all the needed skills to face a crisis that come on your way. When an employer hires you for a management position, they trust you to make important decisions and help build and execute plans that will affect company outcomes. Developing a set of managerial skills can help you to be successful in executing these responsibilities. As you have already heard, behavioral science is a study of the influence of psychology. It is about making the right decisions that are free from any kind of biases and errors. It helps in understanding investor behavior better and helps in improving the financial capability of individuals. As people do in SWOT analysis, you should know your weakness and strength, and you have to overcome your weakness. Otherwise, you will fail in your enterprise. Why do we conduct webinars of this kind? Two answers. One, the university syllabus is inadequate to face the challenges of the job market. Programs of this kind will heighten your knowledge level and enhance your entrepreneurial skills. Number two, this online mode can bring scholars from all over the world to our college and even to your homes. I'd like to emphasize only one point. Utilize opportunities of this kind and prepare for a successful career. I sincerely thank Professor Gaudam in a special way for accepting my invitation. I met Professor Gaudam when he was in India. We got signed an MOU with his Newman University in UK. Unfortunately, we could not start with any activities. I hope we can further work on it. Dear students, you don't try to lift a ton of weight with your little finger, but sometimes you'll have to opt for that. You may have to face massive problems with your tiny intellect. One who knows how to swim in the ocean rebels the waves. Every wave will be a joyful experience for him. However, one who does not know how to swim will be at the mercy of the waves. If you have the requisite skills and if you are well trained, will make your enterprise and also your life successful. Or you'll have to face, you'll have to encounter. I greatly appreciate Mr. Joshi, the head of the Department of Commerce, Sain, and all the staff of Commerce Department for organizing this international webinar. I'm sure Professor Gaudam and Mrs. Muthuleshmi will enlighten us on their respective themes. I wish all of you a fruitful session. May the Almighty God bless all of you.
Thank you, Father, for your enlightening speech. So, without further delay, let us start the session. Let me take a moment to introduce Mrs. Muthuleshmi R., our key speaker of the day. She has been associating with Bharat Mother College, Trikkakara, Ernakulam as head of department in Department of BCom Computer Application since June 2020. She is not only an outstanding teacher, but also a visionary and a thorough research-oriented personality. She is pursuing her part-time research under the guidance of Dr. Manoj Edward in the School of Management Studies, Cochin University of Science and Technology, Kalamassery. She has already cleared her PhD coursework with an incredible score of 8.5 out of 10. She has attended a number of FTP programs and has ample amount of industry experience. Ma'am, it's a great honor for us to have you here today. Let me cordially invite you to the session titled Behavioral Finance.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you so much. I would first like to thank Almighty for giving me this opportunity. Thanks to Father Paul Parakatil. Thanks to Father Bobby. Thanks to Father Binu, who is the Bursar. Thanks to IQSC coordinator and the and HOD Joshi sir of Commerce Department. I do take this opportunity to convey my special thanks to Mejo sir, who actually invited me for the session. So I will be directly going into my session. Hope I'm audible. I will be sharing the screen. Please do tell me whether the screen is visible to you all. I hope an active participation from your side. I do have 2-3 questions during my presentation, which I think you people will answer me.
Sure, ma'am.
Is the screen visible to you?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Can I start my presentation?
Sure.
Okay. So, as you know the topic, as already Shaji sir told, see, hot topic in today's world, behavioral finance. Actually, this is nothing but it is a relationship between your cognitive bias and your emotional bias. Every human being has got some emotion, and every human being is backed by some cognitive ideas. When you put your emotion and this cognitive ideas into the finance or into the finance practice, we call it behavioral finance. This is what actually behavioral finance is. Now, I would like to start my session with a question. Is my question visible? What would you choose? Getting $1,000 with 100% certainty or getting $2,500 with a 50% certainty? Can anybody answer me? What would you choose?
Okay, ma'am. Getting $1,000 with 100% certainty.
You will choose $1,000 with 100% certainty. Any other answers?
Same answer, ma'am.
Same. You want to choose $1,000 with 100% certainty. So
Getting
actually, the
$1,000.
students at Shantagiri College are very good because the experience with this question is when we ask this question, most people often opt for a higher reward. That is like they maybe like even if it is 100%, amount is 1,000 and the next amount is $2,500. If that gives 50% certainty, you will be getting automatically 1,250. So that was something which people will answer. But luckily at Shantagiri College on the opposite side. So you people are not thinking with an emotional element. You people have started thinking with a cognitive basis. So actually, in common parlance, what we feel is, even if we go beyond the risk, if there is something which will give a potential or which will give a plus to that risk, as human beings, we want to take a risk. This is what actually the behavioral finance tells you. Now, as far as concerned, there are two building stones of behavioral finance, or what you would say, two small steps which actually build behavioral finance. One is the cognitive psychology. That is how people think about something. And then there is a limit to the arbitrage. That is like whether the market where this cognitive people are going to perform is efficient or inefficient. Because when we talk of behavioral finance, it is always related to capital market. There may be buyers, there may be sellers. The market is sometimes best with buyers, the market is sometimes best with sellers. If the market is best with seller, it is an efficient market for the seller, but an inefficient market for the buyer. And if the market is efficient with buyer, it is an efficient market with the buyer, but it is an inefficient market with the seller. Dilemma exists between these two things. This is the building, or what you say, the foundation of behavioral finance. Now, coming to behavioral finance, we use many psychological, economic terms, and we try to put this psychological and economic phrases or the words to understand finance. For example, asset pricing, price enemy, IPO underperformance, sentiment, equity premium, PEA drift, momentum. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. You're able to see my screen? I just got disconnected in between, that's why.
Yeah, now it's
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, ma'am, we could.
I'm sorry for that. Okay, so we go into some financial terms, which is actually, these financial terms are being clubbed with some psychological terms, some economical terms. That is what actually behavioral finance is. Now, this is actually behavioral finance. When economics and psychology are pooled into financial terms, behavioral finance. There are people who are well versed in economics. There are people who are well versed in psychology. There are people who are well versed in finance. But an interrelation between all these things are very important when you try to know or when you try to learn the aspects of behavioral finance. Now, behavioral finance is, it is a study of the influence of psychology on the behavior of investor or financial analyst. It also includes the subsequent effects on the market. It focuses on the fact that investors are always rational, they have limits to their self-control and are influenced by their own biases. As Shane sir already mentioned, biases have a very big role as far as this behavioral finance is concerned. I will be touching those bias points along with some key concepts of behavioral finance as far as my presentation is concerned. Am I clear to you? Am I going a bit faster?
No, ma'am, it's okay. We can follow you.
Thank you. Now, I just want to say, when I think of, when I go on talking like investor, rational investor, or when I say to you like investor, now who's a rational investor? A rational investor is a person who takes decision, or he is a person who wants to reach that optimum level of benefit. He wants to get the maximum benefit. That is the person who is known as a rational investor. He will be an investor who will be investing very rationally, that is like very logically, he will be following the market. He will be logically addressing the market. He knows the pros and cons from the side of the seller, from the side of the buyer. He knows the market conditions. That is what a rational investor is. He wants to invest, and moreover, not even investing, he wants to get the optimum level of benefit. Now, when we call investor irrationally, they are those set of people who tend to focus on when they think about investing in capital market. It's not a person who is actually who follows the market, who follows the trends in the capital market, who watches all the ups and downs in the market. He's not a person like that, but all of a sudden he gets the money, he wants to invest. That is what an investor irrationality is, or an irrational investor is somebody like that. But a rational investor on the other side, he follows the market, he knows every pros and cons in the market, and he wants to get the optimum level of benefit. Now, for example, when investors hold on to stock in an acquisition, taking part of least resistance, it keeps those shares of the open market and makes the price relatively higher that would have been otherwise. That is, imagine a situation. I'm a person who is getting some shares and I want to keep these shares. I got these shares as a part of acquisition. If I was a rational investor, if the market seems good, I will be selling it off. But if I am an irrational investor, I will just hold it for a long period. Or I may even look for an opportunity, because holding that itself is a prestigious issue for me. That is what I want to tell you about. Now, there are certain traditional finance aspects. That is, the traditional finance includes the following beliefs. Both the market and investors are perfectly rational. Investors truly care about the utilitarian characteristics. That is, what do you mean by utilitarian characteristics is, I know the benefits. For example, imagine a situation, I am going to buy a car. I know the benefits what I get if I buy a car. And I also know what I am supposed to bear. That is, if I want to buy a car, I need a parking space. I would spend for its fuel. I know that. That is what the utilitarian characteristics reminds us about. And always the investors have got perfect self-control. They don't jump into conclusions. They have personal self-control. They know how the market is. They know what are the ups and downs of the market. They just go beyond along with these ups and downs. They're not confused by cognitive errors or information processing error. I told you because this was the concept of rational investor. He has every information, and he is not a person who processes error information or wrong information. He has every information, and he doesn't often get confused with cognitive errors. This was the traditional finance pattern which we follow. Now, coming into behavioral finance theory, the traits of behavioral finance are investors are treated as normal. They are just normal people. They're not rational people. They actually have limits to their self-control. That is, sometimes emotion play a long route rather than our cognitive bias. They actually have limits to their self-control. Investors are influenced by their own biases. Investors make cognitive errors that can lead to wrong decisions. More often, as per the behavioral finance theory, often the investor makes cognitive errors. And due to this cognitive errors, he come up with wrong decisions. Maybe at the time of sale, he buys something. Maybe at the time he wants to buy something, he may sell something. That is what happens in behavioral finance. Now, I just want to point out the difference between traditional finance and behavioral finance. In traditional finance, people process data appropriately and correctly. But in behavioral finance, people employ imperfect rules of thumb. That is, heuristics, that is what you tell it in behavioral finance, to process the data, which includes bias in their belief and predisposes them to commit errors. They have their own biases set, and according to this bias, coming to your traditional finance, people view all decisions through the transparent and objective lens of risk and return. They view it only through risk and return lens. But when it comes to behavioral finance, perception of risk and return are significantly influenced by how decisions, problems are framed. Maybe I may take a decision according to a situation. That happens in behavioral finance. Then people are guided by reason and logic and independent judgment in traditional finance. But in behavioral finance, emotions and herd instincts play an important role in influencing decisions. You all may be knowing what herd is. Herd is nothing but a group of person who's having a prominence in the stock market. So when herd starts doing something, as if I'm an investor having behavioral financial traits, I may follow this herd. I may not see anything. I may not look into data. I may not process the data. I will just follow this herd. Markets are efficient. Market price of each security is unbiased estimate of its intrinsic value according to traditional finance. But according to behavioral finance, heuristic-driven biases and errors, frame dependence, and effects of emotions and social influence often lead to discrepancies between market price and fundamental value. For example, if you think of a person who is more to behavioral financial traits, I buy a vehicle if my neighbor has bought it. I don't think of anything else. My neighbor has bought it, so due to that social influence, I may buy a vehicle. I may even go for buying some lot of shares, some lots of some lots of certain class of shares only because a person who knows or somebody knows me, he has bought it. Only because of the social influence, I may be buying that thing. If I am a person having behavioral financial traits rather than traditional financial traits. Now, behavioral finance view can be, that is like when we start taking behavioral finance, we can break down whatever decisions we make into 4 buckets. We call it the 4 buckets of behavioral finance. One is self-deception. The second one is heuristic simplification. The third one is social influence. And the fourth one is emotion. Now, what do you mean by self-deception? The concept of self-deception is, it is like what the way we learn the things. When we mistakenly think that we know more than what we actually do, we tend to miss information that we need to make an informed decision. Because this is the way in which I perceive the things. I perceive the things in a way, and I think that is the real situation. I don't go beyond any data. I don't go beyond any projections. Or whatever I come into, or whatever the way I learn, I take it as it is. That is what you mean by self-deception. Heuristic simplification means we can also scope out a bucket which is called heuristic simplification. Heuristic simplification refers to information processing errors. There may be errors when we process the information, but we take it as such. That is what happens in behavioral finance. And the next is emotion. Basically, emotion in behavioral finance refers to our decision making based on our current state of emotion. Our current mood may take our decision or decision making off track from rational thinking. If we were a rational thinker, or if we're a person who used to invest with traditional finance, emotions cannot play a role. But in behavioral finance, emotions do play a role. And what is social influence? I already mentioned what we mean by social influence is how our decisions are influenced by others. My small gang to which I belong. Any one person from this small gang can influence me, or any one person from this group can influence me. And I don't think rationally. I may take a step, that is, I may just blindly follow this person and I may go along with it. These are the buckets of behavioral finance: self-deception, one is heuristic simplification, the emotion, then the social influence. Now, what are the early days of behavioral finance? Year term on that, maybe by early 1990, 2000, we started coining this word behavioral finance, or we started to give attention to this word behavioral finance. The history of behavioral finance coincides with the history of behavioral economics in the early to mid 1970s. That is, thinking in finance was the investors are rational and will price any and all available factors and information into prices. Price was the crucial role to be played. That was what behavioral finance wanted to convey. The premise is known as efficient market forces However, the thinking behind behavioral finance goes back to the days of Adam Smith, when he wrote the book like Wealth of Nations and the Theory of Moral Sentiments, both of which analyze the impact that people's sentiments had on their decisions. When in 1970s, people talked only of behavioral economics, then this Adam Smith and all came up with the conclusion that it is not the price, but even people's emotion or people's sentiments have a role to play in financial decisions. Additionally, ideas like bounded rationality began to reveal how irrational decisions. Till 1970s, people believed that you may take only rational decisions, but we may even take irrational decisions because this happens at times. Now, jumping forward from this, the economists and the psychologists began to question the traditional assumptions in the in the finance. The academicians in particular were leading to shift. Daniel Kahneman is known as the father of this behavioral finance. Then Amosky and Richard Thaler today, they are known as the founding fathers of behavioral finance. Kahneman and Tversky, who weren't actually economists, wrote 3 ground-breaking papers from the mid-70s to the 80s, behavioral finance. Study of decisions and the risk in 1979 and the framing of decisions and psychology of choice in 1981. These are foundations for understanding biases and their effects on decision making. Does anybody know who is this? Can you hear me? Can you answer me? Does anybody know who is this? Any answers? I just told 3 personalities. They are known as the founders of behavioral finance. Key concepts in behavioral finance, which are used for analyzing the investor's behaviors. The first one is mental accounting. People place different values on money depending on subjective criteria, including origin, size, and type. People treat certain assets as less replicable than others. An example of this is saving up for a new home rather than paying down credit card debt. So maybe somebody may wish to buy a new home, but some other person may clear his credit card debts. He may be a person who wants to live in credit, but somebody wants to acquire a home. So mental accounting may be different for different people. They may value money for different things. See, for example, maybe gold is not worth more for me, but gold is worth more for somebody. Maybe a home is worth more for me. Maybe for somebody, a vehicle is worth more. So this mental accounting has got a major role to play as far as behavioral finance is concerned. Now, herd behavior. People mimic the actions of the herd. When collective actions carry better information than private knowledge, thus reinforcing group action. An example of this is massive stock sell-off and confirmation bias. When somebody starts selling, there may be massive sale in the capital market, which automatically brings down the price of a stock. Then suddenly there may be a pattern that is like the herd behavior changes to buying. Now you are not, when you start buying, the rate of the stocks shoots up to such a high level that you won't even be able to afford it. That is what you mean by herd behavior. Now, gap, emotional strains such as anxiety, fear, excitement that disrupt logical rational thinking is being disrupted by all these emotions in investment decisions. An example is rapidly selling off position in a stock after a quick drop in the stock price. When I see a quick drop in the stock price, I fear that the stocks may come down. fearing that I may sell off all my possessions. That can happen. On the opposite side, when I see stock is being picked up in the market, imagining that the stock may even go or the stock may fetch even higher value, I start buying some stock. That is what you mean by emotional gap. Then anchoring is what you mean by like we start evaluating a financial instrument, but we don't know what its actual value is. We start to evaluate a financial instrument. Investor who has an anchoring bias hold on to historical values of financial investment when making decisions. Current market fundamentals. An example is buying the stock at $17 and knowing its all-time high was $100. So investor waits until the stock reaches that price again to sell. So as I told you earlier, I buy a stock which used to be in $20, $100 price. I buy that stock for $17. I may hold that stock for a long time because I know that the stock may fetch a value of $100. That is what you mean by anchoring. Then self-attribution, it is the tendency to be really self-confident and knowledge from others. Attributing success to personal skills and failures to market behaviors, not one's own. An example is when an investor thinks they are genius, when they get a lucky on a 30% profit of their stock pick. That is like, imagine a situation on a smaller note, I have got some profit, but there may be persons getting huge profits on the other side. But even getting the small stock profit, I start building a position of self-confidence. That is like, I feel as if I have made a very right decision, even though emotions are attached. That is what you mean by self-attribution. Now, we have this law of aversion. Because in behavioral finance, what we have to do is, the behavioral finance characteristics are the person having this behavioral finance traits often has this. Also known as prospect theory. It's that people feel losses more strongly than equivalent gains. What we feel is, if we get a gain, we don't think that it is a gain, but rather, even if we are, imagine a situation, I am getting 100 gain, but a 25% loss. This 25% loss seems to be much bigger than the 100% gain. For example, a loss of $100 hurts more than the delight of a gain of $100. A gain of $100 feels like you are getting $100, but losing $100 may feel like you have lost $150 or even $200. That is what you mean by loss aversion or the prospect theory. Because here gains are not considered, but the losses are valued more than the original. This aversion. An investor chooses to prioritize avoiding losses as opposed to maximizing gains. You should sell appreciated
Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry to interfere, but we can't hear you. Dear participants, sorry for the inconvenience. I think Muthulakshmi ma'am has been facing some sort of a network issue. She should be joining back shortly. Just stay connected, please. Thank you. Dear participants, we just contacted Muthulakshmi ma'am. She would be joining shortly. She was facing some sort of a network and connectivity issue, and it would be resolved very soon itself, and we'll be joining shortly. Just stay connected, and sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, I'm really sorry. I lost my connection in between.
It's okay, ma'am. No problem.
I will
Thank you.
continue.
Okay.
I think I stopped at this bias, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So I was telling that in traditional finance theory, biases doesn't exist as investor make perfect decisions, but that doesn't happen in real life. Now, when you have a large position on a stock or a large amount of money invested in general, you have more emotional connection to that money, and therefore you are more likely to have a bias. That is what happens in the financial market in real life. Because you are having a large amount of money which you are being invested in the stock market. Now, this affects investment decisions regarding that money because it is your money. So here, the first bias what comes into role is the confirmation bias. That is, when the investor has bias towards accepting information that supports his belief, even though the information may be flawed. If an investor has a sizable portion in a certain stock, then that investor will likely be searching for information that supports his decision to own the stock, even when the stock may show signs of decline. That is, if I have a belief that, as I told you earlier, I bought the stock for $70, I expect the stock to go to $100. I may hold the stock if I have 1% confirmation that the stock will go to $100. That is what you mean by confirmation bias. There may be certain things which are against my decision, but even if I get any supporting information that supports my belief, I will hold it. That is what you mean by confirmation bias. Now, the next is the endowment effect. The endowment effect occurs when an investor values their asset more when they own it and act differently depending upon the origin of the asset. For example, an unwillingness to invest inheritance money to an emotional family connection is an example of this bias. That is like what you call as endowment effect in your economics. That is like he wants the value of the asset, that is the value in his mind, is very worth than the value of the asset what he owns. That also has got an effect on the decisions when behavioral finance comes into role. Then investment firms like venture capital fund and hedge fund tend to take more risk with the money they have to invest, as the money isn't theirs, but rather money from the limited partners who invest in those funds. This endowment effect actually happens with investment firms or the venture capital firms which invest, the hedge funds which invest. Compared with how individual investors save their money in less risky investment like saving accounts and such, it is easy to see this bias in action. So when we talk of small investors, see actually what venture capital or hedge funds do, they pool the savings of thousands or hundreds of investors and they invest it. But when we talk of one or two investors, we may go for a savings account rather than for investing like venture capital or investing to funds. Now, this is experimental bias. Another important bias is experimental bias, where the investor's memory of recent events makes them more likely to believe that event would happen again in future. For example, many investors exited this, that is like they exited the stock market after 2008-2009 market collapse in the fear that under such harrowing crisis would occur. But nothing happened. Even now, even after 2009, the market is in full flood. You have buyers, sellers dealing in stocks, various types of stocks. You have n number of stocks hitting BSC, NSE, Sensex. You have a whole lot bunch of stocks. But some people, that is like when you follow experimental bias, this happens. Okay. Now, when we talk of behavioral finance, this is the biases I told you. So we want to see the behavioral finance aspect as they have emotions and biases that cloud the rationality of the investor. Now, in the world of finance, investors treat their money more emotionally than rationally and get entangled in a complex web of bias and psychology. This happens in behavioral finance. Behavioral finance seeks to understand the psychological basis for people's behavior and apply them to the sphere of money. Behavioral finance ultimately draws ideas from psychology and finance to generate better insights for how investor can beat their biases and overcome these emotions. This is actually what we want. That is like behavioral finance ultimately draws ideas from psychology and finance to generate better insights, which can make the investor beat his biases, beat his emotions, and overcome that feeling and deal in the financial market. I would like to conclude my session by saying the words of Benjamin Graham, who is the father of investing, the investor's chief problem and his worst enemy is likely to be himself. He is the person who is the enemy, or he is the problem, because his emotion has a role to play when he is not a rational thinker. His emotions, his biases, and all has a role to play. With this, I would like to say, stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive. Thank
you. We'll be having another 15 minutes for discussion with Muthulakshmi ma'am. So any participants, if you have any doubts regarding our personal behavior, means that investment or any pattern types of investment, if you have any doubts, please clear it with ma'am. She's available now. So you can post your questions in the chat box and she'll be answering.
Good evening, ma'am. I would like to ask that, ma'am, being risk averse, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
See,
being
actually,
risk averse.
Risk averse is not a bad thing, but risk avoidance is a bad thing. Because in being risk averse, I'm not completely avoiding the risk. To a limited level, I take that risk. But beyond a level, I'm not in a position to take that risk. So I try to be risk averse. It's not a bad thing, because as I said, you cannot have all sorts of investors, like you cannot have investor only investing in mutual funds, only investing in hedge funds, only making big investments. You may even have many person who invest in single stock, who may invest in small lots of stocks. So for them, risk taking will be much bigger burden. So if you completely avoid risk, that is a bad thing, because risk only gets you return. There is no other way to get return. Only if you take risk, you will get return. So risk averse is not a bad thing.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
It was a good question.
So anybody else, if you have any doubt, please you can clear it now.
Hello, ma'am. I have one doubt. Ma'am, if there is any relationship between behavioral
Yes.
finance and financial inclusion,
What is it? What is it? I'm not able to hear you.
any relationship between behavioral finance and financial inclusion?
See, when you talk of financial inclusion, you are trying to bring all the aspects of finance in every person's everyday life. See, that is what you mean by financial inclusion. See, for example, if I say every small villages getting banks at their doorsteps, or the village persons getting transactions of banks at their doorsteps, that is what you mean by financial inclusion. You are trying to get all the persons into this bracket of finance. You want them to invest so that then only the economy will grow. Economy always grows on the whatever we save. Nammade, like small household savings, small savings all pooled together, then only the nation can build. That is what you mean by financial inclusion. But whereas behavioral finance, some pattern or some psychological characteristics you exhibit when you invest somewhere. Am I clear?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. It's clear. Clear.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So any participants, if you have any doubts regarding the topic, please you can message or chat, put in the chat box.
If you have any question, you can ask me. Both the questions were really good questions because you get used with these terms actually.
So hope that
Even I
all are
want to
clear
tell
with the
you that
topic. Yeah, okay.
even I want to tell you that this is a good research topic being coming up. You can do research in these topics because there are n number of fluctuations happening in the market. As far as you are concerned, you all know the boom in the telecom industry, the boom what COVID has come up with to certain sectors of the economy, the boom which is being faced in certain sectors, but there are n number of sectors really affected by this COVID-19. So this is a good researchable topic also. I just wanted to add this.
Okay, ma'am, one more question.
Yeah.
Okay. Today, these days, many people are investing in stock markets and mutual funds, and we know
Yes.
that in YouTube and all, we have many videos that are telling like how to invest in mutual funds, how to invest in stocks, and which stock you have to pick each day, like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like each day we will be getting updates on which stock you have to invest and which stock you should not invest, that kind of things. So actually these kind of things are driving the people who are do not have any knowledge about the stock market
Yes.
and all to invest in something.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
actually is it like I want to ask, is it again a good thing, or is it right to do that? Because when a person or when an institution is telling and that this day this stock is going down and you have to sell it, then everyone, majority of the people will be selling it.
Yeah, that is
Then
what you mean by herd behavior, as I told you.
yeah, herd behavior. Yeah, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, that is what you mean by herd behavior, as I told
Herd
you.
behavior.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that is what you exhibit the character of that herd. See,
yeah.
even I just want to tell you, whenever you come across any advertisement, any ad, anything in YouTube or Facebook or anything, there is a line which says investors are subjected to market risk.
Market risk, yeah.
That risk is always there.
What I was about to ask
Sudden,
is, when this
all of
herd behavior,
a sudden, a person having amount in the initial stage, if I tell you, in the initial stage, even I am a person who invests regularly. So in the initial stage, just go for simple small lots of stock. It is not a huge amount that you invest. Imagine for a situation, go for simple stocks, like maybe something, if I tell you, some stocks related to construction is good, petroleum is good nowadays, then telecom sector is good. Go for some simple stocks. Maybe like you invest an amount of between 1,000 to 2,000, not more. So even if you get a loss, it is something which you can manage. That will be my advice. And moreover, what market has shown us, if you are able to get the security and hold that security for a long time, the market will give you a return. That is what the market says. Don't go beyond emotions or don't go beyond any biases. Just hold the stock. If it is a really upcoming stock, it will fetch you good return. That is what the market tells you. Now, I
okay,
have
ma'am.
two questions in the chat box. One is, how behavioral finance make connection with corporate social responsibility? Now, the second one is, how behavioral finance affect, yeah, same thing, corporate social responsibility. See, corporate social responsibility is something which is connected with corporates. That is like corporate social responsibility is they have to contribute a portion of their um, what do you say, their return. That is like their annual turnover exceeds certain percentage, they're supposed to contribute something for the corporate. They are supposed to contribute something for society. That is their corporate social responsibility. Imagine, see, like, take the example of um, any company you can take. Um, for example, I'm not getting anything. Take the example of a company. See, who manufacture your classmate notebooks? You're very familiar with classmate notebooks. Who manufactures it? Classmate notebooks. Yes, very good, Pranav. It is ITC. Yes, ITC. See, ITC will be having a corporate social responsibility according to their turnover and their fixed responsibilities and all. Maybe if ITC proper in the capital market, that can add something to their corporate industry. For example, ITC is actually a tobacco company which has got different dimensions, or they have diversified from their sector of manufacture to n number of different things. They have diversified. This diversification was only possible because ITC could manage an handful amount of investors. The company had that much investor who could afford investing in that industry so that they could really diversify. So, you not even, as you say, if you consider it, not directly, but this behavioral finance or the traits exhibited by the investor ultimately affects the company and also the company's turnover, which automatically affects the corporate social responsibility. Any activity in the economy will have an effect on corporate social responsibility. You take any activity in the economy, any activity, it will trigger something. As I told you, maybe small savings that will account for the economic development. You don't know. Even if a household in Kerala is saving 10 rupees, we don't know how that 10 rupee is going to build up our economy in a way. Maybe 1 rupee counts, maybe even 50 paise counts. Because that is what the financial inclusion concept talks us about. Am I clear? The name is not clear. It is we meet. That is from where I got the question. So am I? Any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful session and your valuable time. We all have got a clear understanding regarding a new trend in this field that combines psychology, economics, and other social sciences to identify and understand why people make certain financial choices. So, thank you very much, ma'am. And attention, dear participants, a feedback form has been shared in the chat box. All the attendees, please fill and submit the feedback form before moving on to the next session. I repeat, a feedback form has been shared in the chat box, so complete the feedback form and submit it before moving on to the next session. Next, I would like to introduce Professor Gaudam Rajkova, who's a man with immense knowledge, and it is very much evident from the multitude positions he has held so far. He has been awarded with the most prestigious fellowship of Higher Education Academy. Professor Gaudam currently serves in an academic position in management studies at Newman University, Birmingham, UK.
Okay. Do you want me to start?
No, sir. Just yeah, okay. Previously, he held academic positions at the University of Chester, UK, where he also successfully led the MBA program with a large cohort of international students. He serves a visiting faculty to Assam Don Bosco University, India, and has served as visiting faculty to the Open University, UK. He serves higher education institutions internationally in his role as external examiner and advisor to undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Prior to moving on to academia in 1995, Professor Rajkova spent over 12 years in executive education, product management, and market development in the information technology solutions space in India. Professor Rajkova's research focuses on internationalization in higher education with a particular interest in models of collaboration in cross-border higher education, global student mobility, student expectations, and experience. He regularly presents his researches at national and international conferences. Sir, I cordially invite you to the virtual dais for delivering the inaugural address and for the session on management skill in a post-COVID-19 world. Sir, the platform is yours.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can. Okay. Good afternoon, Father Parakatil. Good afternoon, all of you. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be with you this afternoon and to share with you some thoughts on management skills in what I call the post-COVID world. You'll have to excuse me. I'm talking to you from my studies, so you have all kinds of background books and all kinds of sort of a disorganized study behind me, but that's the way it is at this moment. So that's what we are going to talk about. What happens in a post-COVID world and how do you connect? Now, most of these skills that we'll be talking about are universal, but I think the challenging environment of the last 12 months have accentuated their significance. And this has gained more prime position in our day-to-day work life. So over the next 30 minutes or so, I'll try and look at some of these skills and challenges that some of these sort of developments that have happened and challenges that we face. And in that context, try and highlight some of the skills I think which are important and will continue to be very essential. I'm going to use a few PowerPoint slides as well as a short video clip. So I'm likely to interact with you for feedback to ensure that you are being able to view the slides and the video clip properly. So whenever one uses technology, one isn't very sure whether the recipient is actually receiving what the sender is trying to send. And in my case, I have a video embedded in the PowerPoint slide. And in a regular class, it's fairly easy because you can see that the video is working and it's there. But here, I would need to know whether you are getting to see it or not. So I think Sandra, you are coordinating it. So if it's okay for you, for me, you may be able to give me feedback as to whether the slides are being visible and the video clip is visible. Is
Yeah,
that
sure.
okay? Okay. So you've given me the screen sharing rights, is it?
Yes, sir.
You have, right? Okay. So let me just. Okay. Just bear with me a few minutes. Let me see, get this on. Yeah. Okay, is the screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right, that's great. So it's management skills for a post-COVID-19 world. So let's see what we are talking about here. So if you look at the world 200 years ago, okay, 200 years ago, steam power brought workers to factories where they could use new machines. And this is where the world started in terms of, say, mass production. If we look at mass production, I'm just trying to make sure my screen is working okay. Just give me 5 seconds here. Yeah, okay. So as corporate giants emerged in the late 19th century, staff were needed to administer them. So you had the steam power which came, new machines came in, and then came bigger organizations. And these bigger organizations in the later 19th century required more people to come in, and staff were required to administer them. And as staff were required to administer them, they held planning meetings, circulated memos, invoices, and other paperwork to record what they had done. And this then resulted workers to be close together and created the pattern of people commuting by car and other means of transport in order to be at a central place, the office, what we consider, what we call, as it were, the office. And as time moved on and people started going into the office, and people required other things to buy, so that you had your corner shops, you had the shopping malls, and then as time grew, we now have what we call the shopping malls. So let's see how the world of work in terms of the office, or maybe in the world of work in terms of businesses selling products to us, have changed. So if you go back, it's not more than maybe 200 years when all of these developments have happened, and the requirement for people to come to a central place to be able to coordinate the various activities, whatever is happening in the factories or in the manufacturing units or elsewhere, and that brought in together the business of the office. But the world of work is changing fast, and it is changing fast in the sense that you find all kinds of things happening. So what are the things that are happening? Let us try and see a few things. So one of the things that we all use, and the fact that I am sitting some 5,000-6,000 miles away from where you are, and in a different time zone, and being able to communicate is happening because this wonderful thing called the World Wide Web and the Internet of Things. So this World Wide Web is giving us the ability to connect a whole host of devices, whole host of platforms are coming together, enabled to communicate with one another, enabled to share text, so videos. So essentially what is the Internet of Things is allowing the convergence of technologies as well. So right now you are experiencing, say, a video, a visual image. You can hear audio, and there might be other files also which can be shared. So the whole host of technologies are being merged together, and the convergence is happening. And this is essentially the change that has happened. Well, it has happened over the last 30, 40 years, but it has been accentuated more with the turn of the century, starting, say, towards the latter part of the 20th century. Now, these are some companies or logos with you will be familiar. And if you look back, none of these, except for perhaps, I mean, I've not got Microsoft here, but you've got Microsoft Teams there. But if you look back, apart from PDF, which started maybe the latter part of the previous century, none of these organizations existed. Whether it was WhatsApp or Twitter or Google, WebEx, Zoom, YouTube, all of these are organizations which have developed over the last maybe 20 years, some of them even younger than that, and see the level of prominence they have in our day-to-day lives. Just to share with you some statistics, it is estimated, now these statistics keep changing almost on a regular basis, but there are roughly say 4.13 billion active users on the internet worldwide. And the statistics indicate that there are 718 million active internet users in India. Google statistics indicate that there are 3.8 million searches per minute, translating to about 5.6 billion per day. Now, these statistics are mind-boggling. You know, whether 5.6, 5.76 billion, imagine what sort of numbers we are talking about. Facebook talks about 2.8 billion active users monthly. And India has a mobile phone subscriber population of about 1.7 billion. Now, obviously, 1.7 billion subscribers don't mean they are unique subscribers, because we all know that there are some individuals who have more than one connection or mobile connection. But that gives you an indication of the numbers that we are talking about. And this 1.7 billion subscriber number is increasing exponentially. Now, if you look at just India's context, 1.7 billion mobile subscribers, 718 million active internet users. And to think about it, in 1996, 97, or even just about the turn towards 2000, most people, if they had to make a phone call, went across to what was called a public call office, PCOs. That was what was the rampant business across towns and cities and villages of the thing, because phone connections were almost impossible to get for individuals. Even for internet, most people went to internet kiosks or cafes or whatever they are called, right? But that has changed, and technology has made it more possible for people to now sit wherever they are, as you are doing probably now at your institution or at home or otherwise, in front of a desktop, maybe a laptop. Some people might be using a tablet or even a smartphone, and you're being able to connect with people from elsewhere in the world, live streaming of events. 25 years back in India, this was possible only with large companies because they had dedicated lines, dedicated communication links, etc. So all of this change actually brings about new skills, new ways of working, and that people would have to take. So here's where I would like to share the video, and I'll see whether it works. That's where the problem happens. Okay, could you tell me if you can see the video?
4 years ago, we started to wonder.
Yeah, was it audible?
Yeah, it's audible.
It is audible. Okay. And you can see the video as well.
Yes, sir.
What would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store, so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
Okay. So this is where it creates a bit of a problem. Sorry.
4 years ago, we started.
This is where to move to the next one sometimes creates a problem. I'll go back to the first part and then I'll come back to
you.
Sorry, I've got a problem over here with the technology.
Years ago, we started to wonder.
Just give me 30 seconds to just sort this thing out because it's gone on the loop.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Sorry about that. There was a slight problem with it went on the loop. Are you okay with the visual for the next slide now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So that was a video from much earlier, about 2016, 2017, which was showing about what Amazon might be doing or is doing with their retail space. But some of it is now reality, and it is happening in the US. It's happening somewhere in some 1 or 2 stores, which Amazon has started as the pilot in the UK. But others are also using similar sort of technology in retail, although not in full scale. Now, all of that brings in new skills. It requires new skills for developers. It requires skills in terms of what's going to happen in retail, etc. So let us look at some other users of technology and artificial intelligence in the retail space. One of the things that's happening is robots are being piloted in hardware stores to help customers navigate their way. So you have robots which are connecting people with where stock is available or where stock has been needs to be replenished, or you go in and you are assigned a robot and the robot actually guides you through a big store, telling you where items are available, etc. Some of you probably are also familiar with RFID tags, radio frequency tags, which are on products. And as moment it moves off the shelf, it indicates that although it is not there, it is still in the store and people can identify where that product might be. It's used a lot with clothing companies in retailing, because clothes are taken, it goes into the, let's say somebody's taken it for trialing and it's gone into the trial room. On the stock floor, it shows that the product is available. They may say that there are 5 products, 5 items available, but only 3 are available on the shelves. The other 2 are actually in the trial room. So things like that, it helps people to manage stocks. As I said, the robots are using simple questions and specialist knowledges about products and their usage, right? They also help maintaining an inventory, so the store knows what items needed to be restocked. So there's a whole host of things that products can be do. Sandra, are the slides going okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So let's look at some other things where technology is being used. Here, there's an image of a drone, and what are drones being used? Drones are being increasingly used in retail and some of the applications which they can be used. I'll just illustrate in the next slide. So where can you use drones in, say, a retail environment? It's being used a lot in stock and inventory planning. If you have a massive yard or a stock yard, instead of having to go and pick items and check where it's happening, drones are being used not only to take images, but also in terms of picking items and helping in stock and inventory planning. It's being used in real estate. It's being used for photography. We know it's being used a lot in photography and in studying consumer behavior. So these are some of the areas in which drones are being used. And as I said, drones are being used for warehouse management. Drones can ensure that shelves are easily stocked. In real estate planning, proper utilization of space, take photos and help space utilization. Say, for instance, it could be that I'm located here and I'm looking at something which is way outside in some part of coastal Kerala. A drone can take the image for me, which I manage, which I can actually control sitting from here and send me back real-time images. I'm not talking about somebody actually taking a image there and sending it to me. I'm actually talking here where I am controlling the drone from here and taking the image. The thing of somebody taking an image and sending is fairly straightforward, but here you're talking of much more intricate technology. When you look at photography, I think you've seen a lot of photographs being taken, especially it's become a fad now, especially in weddings and things like that, where drones people are using drones for photography. But that apart, it sometimes eliminates the need for professional photographers, and you can capture images from different angles. So especially when you're looking at, say, manufacturing sites, production sites, factory sites, or a new area where you want to go into and you want to look at different angles, and it's not yet say a physical location which does not have proper roads for you to go in, etc. Drones can give you a major advantage there. And when you're talking about consumer behavior, linking it with inventory planning, when you're looking at planning and stocking items, track and study consumer buying patterns. Now, these are some of the things you can do. And going back to the application that we were viewing, what Amazon uses with their app. The app is obviously, from the customer's point of view, useful because it sort of eliminates the point of standing in a queue and having to pay money and all the rest of it. It's all there on your handheld device. But at the same time, it is also giving Amazon a whole lot of data, which is about consumer preferences, what they are buying, how they are buying, what time they buy, what's their average purchase pattern, etc., etc. So there's a whole lot of things that happens there. Then we're talking about COVID-19. COVID-19 has changed social behavior. Social distancing has also led to a rise in popularity of a lot of other innovations, which reduce the need for social contact. And here is an image of a robot, which could be an autonomous robot cleaner that uses ultraviolet light to disinfect and clean restaurants, shops, and malls. Autonomous robots like iBots and others have always, as a brand,
sir. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, sir, are you changing the slide?
Yes, it hasn't changed.
No, sir. It's still on the 11th slide. We can see only the 11th slide here.
Yeah, which is 11th slide is with the robot. Yeah, COVID-19 has changed social behavior.
No. The COVID-19 has, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on that slide at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I have not changed slide. Okay, just let
okay.
me know if it's the proposals there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sir.
So essentially, the autonomous robot cleaners that use ultraviolet rays, disinfect, clean restaurants, etc. Now these robots have been there always, but now it has gone into an application which is completely different, which people never thought about maybe 18 months back, but it's a standard one. I'm going to change a slide now, so let me know if it changes. Is it changing now? Hello, Sandra.
Yes, sir.
Has it changed now, the slide?
No, it's still in the 11th slide.
Okay. You're still on the 11th slide, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now it's changed.
Is it coming half or is it coming full?
Yeah, the slides are present, sir, fully.
Fully, okay. Yeah, I think there's a slide problem. Okay, I'll have to manage it from the other slide. Yeah, okay. So when you look at these, now I put up some logos here, which are all of you will be familiar with them. None of these as such, apart from probably Amazon, and even in India, none of these existed. Maybe some of them probably didn't exist 5 years back. Others didn't exist 10 years back as well, right? And these are things which are happening in our social space, whether it's Foodpanda, Zomato, Flipkart, Swiggy. I don't know if Deliveroo exists in full form in the whole of India, but Foodpanda, Zomato, Swiggy definitely is there. Flipkart and Amazon definitely are there. And to give you an indication here, you have in Amazon, it is estimated that there are 323 million visitors monthly. Right? Now, whether all of them buy is something which we won't know, but that's the statistics that is available. And for Flipkart, that number is 243 million. That's big numbers of people who are visiting these sites. So I mentioned about the world of work changing. The world of work changing, yes, the world of work is changing here too, in the sense that how you are finding changes in this. Now, is the next slide showing in your thing, which is about Zoom?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I think what is happening is it is working from the screen. Okay. So when you talk about the workplace too is changing, and you have Zoom, and in Zoom you have today 300 million daily meetings. And in 2019, it is estimated that it was only 10 million users, 10 million meetings. Now, this is not 300 million users, the 300 million daily meetings. So I might be in a meeting right now, and then if I log into another one, that will be seen as another meeting. But that means there are 300 million interactions which are roughly happening on a daily basis. Moving on into the workplace. Can I just stop this for a moment and then do it as a new share, because it otherwise will create a problem there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Now it's showing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the workplace has a whole range of issues. We've got complex problems, collaboration and partnerships, interconnectedness, remote working. They're some of the things that I've just highlighted. So when you are looking at a very simple thing like home delivery of goods, or using an app to make your payment for a particular product that you've ordered. So let's say, for instance, you are using a product like a platform like Swiggy. You order something, you have made the payment from there. It's not Swiggy which is selling the product. Swiggy is just your interface for whoever is providing you the product, it may be a restaurant meal or otherwise, and delivering it to you. Now, if you have the platform, if you're using the app, you might be sitting in Kerala and you might be having a friend somewhere else in, say, maybe in Maharashtra, and you want to order something in Bombay using where you are in Kerala. You can actually go in, order. That restaurant will deliver the product to your family or friend's place, and it will take the money out of your account. Now, there's a whole lot of interactions which are happening there. Those complex problems, there are people sitting behind trying to solve those problems, both in terms of technology, both in terms of people skills, in terms of interface between technology and human beings, etc., which involves, which is the next point, which is about collaboration and partnerships. So Swiggy is collaborating with maybe a technology provider, they're collaborating with delivery drivers, they're collaborating with stores and restaurants and other things who want their business, which brings you to the whole business of interconnectedness. So all of this is now interconnected. Your bank account is connected to your app or whatever thing you're using, which then is connected through telecom, whether fixed lines or wireless lines or whatever form it has to be connected. Money has to then come out of your account and go into the payment of the person, and the delivery partner who Swiggy or otherwise would need to keep their commission, and all that which goes in. So there's a whole lot of interconnectedness which is happening. And as we see, there is remote working. Now, remote working has its advantages, it has its disadvantages as well. As advantage could be that as I speak now, I am sharing my views with you, which if I didn't use this platform, the only way I could do is to be in your at premises at Santagiri or at any other premise to be able to deliver it. I mean, being able to deliver this. There are disadvantages in the sense that if, as you've seen, if technology works well, it's fantastic. If it doesn't, there are issues. But that can happen with technology even when you are on site. But remote working has other issues which we will just address in a few minutes. The other factor which has happened is these global connections. So before the usage of these sort of platforms that we are using, Zoom or WebEx or Team or whatever, if you were in an education environment, in most cases, the connection with other faculty or colleges or institutions would be through physical connection of either people visiting those institutions or faculty visiting them and delivering. Now it's able to have global connections right across, and you're able to do that. Okay. You can manage uncertainty, right? In terms of how are you going to manage the challenges that come from, maybe you are using technology, you are working in various places. What sort of challenges will come about? Say 15 months back, businesses did not really think about a pandemic which would run for more than 12 to 14 months right across the world. Travel companies, airlines, etc., were considering other challenges. They were probably not considering challenges of this nature. I mean, the challenges that travel companies, airlines face today are far greater than what they faced even after the aftermath of 9/11, when travel had a major impact. But what's going to happen when travel actually comes back? What sort of hygiene and security measures we have to take? We're still uncertain. What will the inside of an aircraft look like? What sort of provisions we have to take into account? All those things. It's about managing uncertainty. Looking at interconnectedness, remote working, you're going to work in virtual teams, multicultural. So your teams, you have to think about working in teams where you may not actually be physically present in the location. You may not have met physically your team member, and they are from different cultural backgrounds. You could be sitting in India working with a colleague who might be in Finland, somebody else might be in Singapore, somebody might be in Indonesia, in Jakarta, wherever it might be. So there is that business of multicultural teams. Increasingly, we'll have to learn how to manage technology. Even the simplest of things sometimes can throw a curveball. Like, say, for instance, I have a video embedded. It works very well most of the time. On some days, it just doesn't. As it showed today, it didn't work seamlessly. Sometimes it works absolutely seamlessly. So it's just about just knowing that it's working and giving yourself that amount of time, which is there. Linking with virtual teams and multiculturalness, it's about cultural awareness and language issues. And even we know, living in a country like India, there are cultural differences right across, north to south, east to west, both in terms of the way we look at things, our food habits, the languages we speak, and so many things. So there are those issues which are there. And we have to be able to work in different time zones. So there will be situations where some people will be working much later into the night in India because they are working with a team which is in a different time zone, or working with customers in a different time zone. So these are just some of the things that I've just put forward here. And what are the skills that we might require in the workforce? We've got to be adaptable. We've got to be creative. We have to be able to communicate. So with all these challenges which are there, working with different time zones, to working with different cultures, etc., we need to be able to adapt ourselves. And then we have to look for creative solutions and see how we can work through. And we have to have skills for communication. Are the slides going okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We need to be able to collaborate with others, work with others, be culturally aware. We need to have empathy in terms of understanding how others feel about things, and understand their emotions and way of doing things. Which brings you to having emotional intelligence. You've got to be flexible. You're working with different time zones, you're working with different cultural background, you're working with different products. So we just can't be fixed about this is the way things are and this is how we do things. We have to be flexible, and in the process we've got to be innovative in terms of finding solutions for problems, finding ways of doing things, and solving problems. We also have to develop skills of independent learning, because most of you today at university are probably doing most of your work through virtual learning, through online learning, and very little face-to-face contact or an on-campus setting. So that brings, although there is a lot of information available and the classes are taking, etc., there's a lot which you have to learn independently, and that's a skill. We have to learn independently, because it's usually working with guides, with manuals, with books, etc., which are available. That's one. But then we have to learn also by doing it ourselves, practicing ourselves, and that's a skill which one has to develop, which also links in with the next point, which is about managing remotely. You might be, over a period of time, you will be managed remotely. Your boss may not be in the same location as you, and you may grow up and you may take on a team where your team is not in the same location as you. How do you manage when you don't actually physically see the people that you're working with? That's one of the things, which brings you then to the concept of how do you manage uncertainty. So we talked about uncertainty earlier. So those were the things which are happening. Now these are the skills that you're talking about. And obviously managing remotely is about remote working and virtual teams. And one of the things which comes with being an independent learner is to become a reflective learner, which essentially means that you have to be able to sit back, think, and reflect on what you have done. Think about what you've done, what went well, what didn't go well, and be able to learn from that. It's not just about saying, okay, this is the way things are done and I follow a manual and that's what it is. Even when we follow the manual and we do things, we often don't necessarily get it right. Why didn't we get it right? What were the issues that need to be done? So reflection is going to be a major skill in the workplace. Resilience, being able to withstand change, withstand, if you like, challenges, like, you might be in a situation where you are bidding for a contract, which is multi-team, multinational. The contract doesn't come to you in a particular way. Do you just brood over it, or do you have the resilience to actually say, okay, fine, that didn't work. We learn from it. We reflect where we made a mistake, or where we could have done better, and go forward. Resilience also comes from the fact that there's a lot of resilience required at this point in time, because people are working remotely, people are not in location, they don't know what the future is like. So you have to have that mental resilience to be able to withstand these kind of challenges which come. and social interaction becomes different. You might have 500 friends on Facebook, and you may have 200, 300 followers on Instagram or otherwise. But then, who are your physical friends also is important. Also, how do you interact in social media? So social interaction becomes very important. And if one has a whole lot of friends on the social platforms, then sometimes that does affect our interaction on face-to-face and otherwise. So if you are constantly going to be remote workers working remotely via computers, online, etc., what happens when we do face-to-face? So social interaction is an important part as well. So these are some of the skills that we are talking about in the workplace. And I bring them down to the 3 R's. And the 3 R's are: you got to take responsibility for yourself, for your own learning, for your skills, and how you're going to manage yourself. You've got to be resilient. You've got to be aware of that, there will be challenges thrown at you. You just can't, expect that everything will go smoothly. You can't expect somebody else to just solve all your problems or do it for you. You have to be able to be resilient to the changes. And when things don't go your way, pick yourself up, see take the bright side of it, move on to the next stage, and be able to work through it. And you've got to ensure relevance, which is essentially you've got to be relevant to what is happening around you in terms of your skills, in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your practice. So repeating again, you're responsible for your own thing, and you've got to take responsibility for your actions. You've got to be resilient in terms of what is being thrown at you and how you respond to it, and you've got to ensure relevance. The future, I would say, is about sustainable leadership. It's about, in the previous session, I came in towards the end of the session, and there was a question which was asked about, I think, behavioral finance and corporate social responsibility. So there is corporate social responsibility, but a point which is important for all of us to also recognize and implement in our own lives is that we also have an individual social responsibility. So we don't just take into consideration what is the organization's responsibility, what is our responsibility as well. And sometimes you might find that a collection of individual social responsibility will force the organization, the corporation, to take on responsibility. There's a lot of debate around this thing in terms of people say individuals have conscience, does the corporation have a conscience? Issues like that. I've just shown a few images over here in terms of, an electric bike, wind power, and then taking responsibility. So there are many ways by which this can be done, and many ways by which organizations can take on board.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt. So we are still on the 14th slide.
I'm sorry. That's what happens with your now. Are you on skills in the workplace?
Yeah, skills in the workplace.
Okay, so that's where the problem is. Okay, I went through this. Okay, I'll go back to it again. Adaptable, creative, communication, being collaborative, culturally aware, emotional intelligence, flexible, and innovative. And then we talk about being independent learning, being able to manage remotely, managing uncertainty, remote working, and reflective learner, resilience in social interactions. I covered these points, but these were the points which were there. Okay, the next slide is about the 3 R's of responsibility, resilient, and relevance. Is that showing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you take responsibility for what you're doing. You have to be resilient in terms of what it throws to you, what the world throws you in terms of challenges, and how you combat that and how you take forward. And then you've got to ensure that you're relevant to what your knowledge, your practice, your understanding, and what the world wants. This was the slide I was in, which is about the future is sustainable leadership. Right, this should be showing now, where you've got images of the globe, some windmills, wind farming, and cycles, electric cycles, and that's what I talked about. It's not just about your corporate social responsibility. but it is also about your individual social responsibility and how, as an individual, we can make a contribution to the world, contribution to the environment. And through individual responsibility, you can actually also make corporations change. The point I had raised earlier is that we always say individuals have conscience. The corporations have a conscience as well. And through individual responsibility, there's some of the things we can address. Is the next slide showing now the 3 Ps I'll talk about in terms of this? You've got to think about the people, planet, and profit.
Yes, sir.
So as leaders, as in terms of management skills, it's not just about the corporation making money or the business making money. There is this whole notion about can you be profitable at the same time being ethically at business? Can profits and business ethics coexist? Now that's a separate discussion by itself, but those are questions that you ask yourself. Is that how do you look after our people? How do you look after the planet? How do you also make a profit? Because if you don't make a profit, if you don't make surplus, profit is not to be seen as something which is, a dirty word. And in that sense, if you think about it, even a charitable business has to make a surplus, because if it doesn't make a surplus, how is it going to run itself? So yes, but what do you do with your profit is the question. Is the profit put back into the business? Is the profit being made by a disregard to people, disregard to planet? Is how is the profit being done? So those are questions which will come about. So you're talking about people, planet, and profit. So I would say the future, you embrace the future. Ask yourself the question, how can we do things differently? Ask yourself the questions, how can we do different things? Set clear and explicit goals and create a distinct sense of purpose. So the issue over here is the future is unpredictable. Fair enough, but you've got to embrace the future. Ask yourself always the question, how can I create a clear and distinct sense of purpose? What is it that I want to achieve? How is it that I can contribute? What is it that I want to get out of this? And those will then lead you to asking you these 3 questions. Is there something that can be done differently? Constantly asking the question, okay, this is what is the state to think. Can we do things differently? If you do things differently, you might also be able to do different things. And that's why it is the white open canvas that you can say, okay, this is not the way we're going to do it. We're going to do things different, not just the same things differently, but we'll do different things and be able to set clear and explicit goals. So this is a broad brush into the areas that I wanted to talk about. It's a bit unfortunate that our slides didn't work out the way in terms of the sequence, because of somewhere it was getting stuck, but fair enough, at least hopefully you could get to see all the slides. Thank you very much for your time. And if there is time available for any questions, I'm happy to take them. Sandra, did the slides go through finally?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think in terms of in showing it, it didn't go for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that's fine, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm back now. I've taken the slides off now. Are there any questions from anyone?
Participants, if you have any doubts regarding the topic, you can put it in the chat box. So thank you, sir. During
Thank
this
you.
pandemic situation, it was very relevant for us to know about the current managerial changes that had happened and are yet to happen. So thank you for making us aware about this artificial intelligence, then how COVID-19 has changed the social behavior, consumer behavior, and the changing workplace, then future in sustainable leadership, etc., and the case at the present in this field. So thank you so much, sir, for this informative session.
Thank you very much. I hope it was useful. The technology did give us a little bit of hiccups in between, but it happens when we are working this way. I'm not sure why it happened, but it happened very well. But all the slides were available at the end, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So shall I leave the room now for the moment? Is that okay? Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
No other questions? Yeah, you're okay? Thank you.
So, wait a second, sir. So, I think we have a question in the chat box. Yeah.
I can't see it. Which one is that?
Yeah, it's from Shanu Joseph. That is, leadership have more important. So, Shanu, can you make it clear the question?
Yeah, what's the question? Not very quite clear what it says about leadership. I think Sharu is in there.
Yes, he is there. He's posting something. So, leader is the most important one. Leadership. So, sorry, it's Sharu. So, Sharu, can you make the question clear? So I think the question is leader the most important one in leadership?
Well, it's in the question is you've got to first ask yourself the question, okay, what are the traits you're looking for in a leader? Now, so what you're talking about is leadership has certain traits, certain characteristics that are there, and then people have to step up to that. Some people step up to it very well, and some people individuals may find it not in their sort of, if you like, makeup, as it were. But that's something which can be developed, and that depends to a great extent on how an organization wants its leadership to develop and how it goes. There are some people who are innate; they take it like it's in them, so they automatically take up the position very well. Whereas in some cases, it may not necessarily come to them inherently. So that's something which can be developed. But yes, being a leader requires, or a leadership role requires certain characteristics, certain traits which have to be there, and they can be. So if the question was, is leadership important or the person important, it's a leadership role. Some people can take on to that role very easily because they have those characteristics themselves. In some other cases, it may not necessarily be the case. Yeah. I hope I've been able to answer what I thought was the question.
So we have another question from Anshumol, that is the positive side of COVID-19 in our business. I think to
Well,
mention.
if you look at the positive side, everything, any challenge that comes throws opportunities as well. So there are new ways of doing business which have emerged, things which were not possible. I give you the example, the fact that I'm communicating with you via this platform today. Educational institutions in general were not doing this 12, 15 months back. So that's a new thing which has come. So, and this is likely to continue and only become probably more improved. Similarly, you can see in terms of around the local businesses, a lot of new businesses have come about, in the sense that, okay, I showed you the slides of the food delivery businesses, like the Zomatos, the Swiggies, and the Food Pandas of the world. These are businesses which have developed a lot right across, not just those brands, but as a concept, the business has developed because of people not going out and having things delivered to them, right? That's one. The other thing is in terms of automated cleaning machines and other such things which have happened. Those are some of the businesses which have developed. If you look at from those aspects, I think somebody has put in over here, there's another question which actually answers part of the question, is how has COVID-19 affected logistics industry, in the sense that it has become a big business at the moment, because if things are having to be delivered at home and issues like that. So in a country like India, I would say what we call the last mile delivery, the bit where the delivery person comes and picks it up from this warehouse and delivers it to you in your house, whether the person is bringing it on a motorcycle or in a small three-wheeler van, etc. That kind of business has also grown. Along with it, the relevant software and other platforms which have developed are other bits which have happened. Now, the other thing which I had in mind was a new type of, say, if you like, products which have come into place. Garment manufacturers, fabric manufacturers never made masks before. 12 months back, you wouldn't have thought that you could go into a bank wearing a mask, face mask. Now it's become a part of life. So those sort of extensions have happened in products. So it's a thing of looking at what sort of things in terms of business opportunities, I would say. Otherwise, it has, I think, brought realization to people that we had taken growth, we had taken development, we had taken everything goes on without any problems. If there is a natural disaster of any sort, it is happening in somebody else's backyard. It's not happening with me. Now suddenly people have realized that these sort of things can happen to anywhere, and it can happen right at your doorstep. So people have become more aware of these things. Probably as a result, they've become a bit more circumspect, more resilient. And I think with this, one of the things that will come to the forefront is there'll be a lot of discussion around climate change, which will continue, and people will realize that climate change is going to have a major impact on each of our lives. So those sort of awareness is, I think, what has happened as a result of this challenge which has come, and people having to contain themselves, reflect, and see life in a slightly different perspective. So there's the business side of it, there's the social side of it, there is also the human side of it, and how people have thought. Yeah. Okay, it says, in the post-COVID-19 period, no chances of job in business. Yeah, I wouldn't say so. It's just that it's become more challenging and the job market is changed. So it's maybe the usual jobs which people were saying may not be there. There might be other jobs which will come. But yes, it's become more challenging because businesses have had to reorganize themselves or recalibrate themselves. The different type of businesses have developed. Some have had a tough time. So like, say, for instance, I would imagine in the state of Kerala, hospitality is a big business, and that has got affected, right? Because of social distancing and travel and all the rest of it, right? So whether it is in hotels or in houseboats, or it's just normal home stays, all of that has got affected. So it will take time for that kind of thing to come up. So there'll be other businesses. So some sectors will get affected, has been or will continue to get affected, some others won't, but you'll have to look out where the new sort of opportunities are. But yes, the job market has taken a hit, there's no doubt about it. But there will be jobs. To say that there won't be any jobs, I won't say that. There'll be different type of jobs.
Okay, sir. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
In the coming years, artificial intelligence will be taking up in all the fields. So where will humans stand if artificial intelligence dominate human activities?
Okay, this debate is similar to the debate which probably we continue to have, and we had earlier, is that if there are more computers, there won't be, people will stop getting work. The thing is, some aspects will be taken over by artificial intelligence, but to develop those technology, to develop it to work, also will require new skills, and those are the skills that people will acquire. So some of the, if you like, what you might say is that regular repetitive jobs may be taken over by technology, but there will be other skills will be required elsewhere where humans will be there. Like, say, for instance, even if there is artificial intelligence in medical science, and you can maybe see a robot coming and doing some surgery or whatever, it won't be doing all over in the next. I can't see that happening all over, in the sense that medical science and that kind of skills, human beings will still be required, but human beings will probably go on to a higher level where the essential levels will be catered to by artificial intelligence and robotics to some extent, but not completely. So there will be, but there will be a change again in terms of the type of job mix which is there. Right? You're already seeing it. Like, say, for instance, people are using on social media and other such things, bots and others which are responding to people's queries. So there's a lot which will happen in terms of using data and things of that nature, but there will continue to be other areas where human intervention and human involvement will be required. Does that address your question?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you, sir, and thank you, participants, for your valuable questions. And now a feedback form has been shared in the chat box. So kindly fill the feedback form and submit it. And moving on to the last session. Now, I request Ms. Sani Susan Kuriakos, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, to propose the vote of thanks.
We have come to the August end of this webinar. I am here to propose a vote of thanks to all those who have contributed for the successful culmination of this webinar. We have been fortunate to be assisted by our principal, Father Paul Parikatal CMI. Father, you have been a constant support and have given us a lot of encouragement. Thank you, Father. I thank Father Bobby Anthony CMI, Principal, Shantigiri Institute of Management, who graced us with his presence and guidance. Thank you, Father. Our chief guest for the international webinar, Professor Gaudam Rajkova, gave us an insight on management skills on post-COVID world. This webinar expounds the technological disruptions, change in social behavior post-COVID, and the future of sustainable leadership. On behalf of Shantigiri family, I would like to thank Professor for taking his precious time out, consenting to be the chief guest. Sir, indeed, your words have enlightened us all. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our resource person, Mrs. Mutlakshmi R., for sharing her knowledge on the topic behavioral finance. We were able to get a better understanding on the key terms of behavioral finance. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are thankful to Father Dino Kalligatal CMI, Bursar of Shantigiri College, and Father Anish Chirvanal CMI, the Administrator of Shantigiri College. Dear Fathers, your support and cooperation in this webinar was a remarkable one. I sincerely thank Mr. Joshi M. Varghese, IQAC Coordinator, and Head of the Department of Commerce, for his constant support and efforts to make this webinar a successful one. My words of gratitude ain't enough to thank Mr. Shane Shaji, the program coordinator, who took major burden on his shoulder ungrudgingly. Thank you so much, sir. Furthermore, let's have a special recognition to all the participants who remained patient throughout the session and encouraged the morale of speaker by their gusto and enthusiasm. Thank you so much for being our pillar of support. I also thank all the faculties who joined this webinar, supported and wished for the success of this webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the students. This event was not possible without your invaluable contribution. You work day and night for the promotion of this webinar. Thank you so much, dear students. Once again, I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a great pleasure having you all here today for this webinar. Let me once again thank each and every one of you and wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Sandra, for coordinating and taking us through the glitches. Thank you, participants, for being there and for the questions. I hope you found it useful. And if there are any questions, you know how to get in touch with me. Father Paragatal has all my details. I'll be happy to be of any use at any time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sandra.
So participants, kindly fill the Google form and submit it. Another 3 minutes will be given. Do it as early as possible.